Welcome back to the page, guys. It may not be a mad world, but it definitely is a dark world. Let's get into the video. The structure decks are out on the street. We got to talk about it. Let's go. Alrighty, guys. So with that out of the way, we want to get straight into the profile. As far as how it's going to do this, just going to show the profile first, do a combo video separately, and then just handle it that way. I really like the structure deck. The structure deck shouldn't be more than like $28 for all three of them. I think that's what my buddy paid when I saw him buy it on Friday. But that's besides the point. Let's get into the cards. If you don't know what Rainbow does, you get to special summon this card from your graveyard by returning one level 7 or lower Dark World monster you control to the hand, which causes loops all by themselves. But additionally, it also gets to special summon out one level 4 or lower Dark World monster from your deck or graveyard to either field if it's discarded in a certain way. So it really adds to some layers that Dark World previously didn't have, as well as give the deck an additional Grapha style effect. As far as the dangers that we talk about really quickly, danger Bigfoot, I feel like you just want to play 2 of. It's not good on turn 0, but you still got to have a card like this, and these monsters are so massive that jumping onto the field with a card like Skill Drain that you can potentially play as well. Having a lot of high attack monsters like this that can drop onto the board can just create havoc for your opponent, so Skill Drain is a very possible card to go with these cards. Bigfoot pops face up cards, Thunderbird pops face down cards. You can play a card like Trade In if you want to pop their effects that way, but you know, Trade In is just a weird card, especially when you're playing so many level 4s, which we'll get into in a second. Then obviously the old school Grapha, ending up in the graveyard, being able to not be affected by Abyss Dweller, as well as the new card isn't affected by Abyss Dweller. That's a really, really powerful thing to have for a rogue deck. And then the last but not least for the dangers is Danger Ogopogo, which you're not really going to use its effect like that. You're just using it for the additional level 8 body or just having another link material, I should say. Danger Nessie, I definitely feel like with it being back to 3, having as many danger names as possible in this version of the deck is how I would play it. And adding to that, I'm playing Danger Mothman as well. And last but not least, as far with the dangers, I'm playing Danger Chupacabra. I'm playing 2 Chupacabra because Chupacabra is a fiend. And even if you're overdrawing this, which is okay, it's still a fiend, it can still be used as a target for so many of these cards. So it doesn't hurt to have more level 4s, and the level 4s going into the rank 4s definitely means something. Silva for the loop. I'm playing the loop in the deck. I feel like you just have to. Basically, Ceruli given to your opponent and then discarding a Silva is pretty much all of the loop. I'm going to explain that in the combo video. I explained it in the video previously, but I'm going to do one again just to help people remember. But I like playing talents because Ceruli is one of the few cards in the game that actually makes your opponent act like they're activating an effect that you gave them. So it's like Ibli except for Dark World, and it triggers a card like Talents. And with all these big gigantic monsters and all this draw power, they're gonna activate some kind of effect at some point, and they're dark, so they're gonna Bistoo you. Just is what it is. But you die a horrible death to cards like Dimensional Shifter and Dimensional Fissure and anything that banishes. And then rounding out the rest of the cards, guys, it's just the basic stuff like Snow. When it's discard, target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, add 1 Dark World monster. You know, like adding 1 Dark World card, duh. You got to play 3 Snow. Zephyros is crazy with the field spell, and then I could see some cards where they could be bounced on and off the field, but most of the time it's just bouncing a field spell and using it a 4th time, which can happen and get absolutely nutty. Salamander Catalyzer is a card that I believe came out in Darkwing Blast, and it says you can reveal this card in 1 Fiend monster in your hand and special summon 1 of them and discard the other. So it definitely is going to almost create a level 4 access or axis, I should say, to be able to go into one of your rank 4s or link climb in some kind of way. And it's just a level 4, and it's a fiend by itself, so you can get rid of it with the field spell and just keep rolling. So I mean, guys, this card is perfect for the deck. I feel like you got to play it. It's also pretty good in Infernoids. Deck profile coming soon. Actually, almost like immediately after this. Danger Chupacabra, again, I already talked about, but it's a fiend, guys, and it's a level 4, and it's a free body, and, you know, being able to special back a Mothman is going to happen a lot. Genta, Magenta, you know, all of them have color-related names. Genta is absolutely insane, especially if you draw with a lure or the field spell. It is a 1-card wheels combo by itself. And then last but not least, for the Dark World's Brow, I'm playing 2. I do feel like you don't have to play, I mentioned Cerulli already, that's why I said last but not least, but Parl, you don't have to play Parl. It's a lot like a wolf bark style of effect of pulling something back, but I just don't know. That may get in your way. You don't have to play Parl, but I still would. I just feel like it's a good card. The last but not least is these 2 dangers. You know, you just got to play them. They're bodies. Free bodies for the linking. Go into Baguska, you can like turn off somebody's board and then just push over them with links. It's really, really strong how this deck can do that. Skull Dread is usually the wheels to that. Going into the cards, the few cards that you can play, I feel like Puppetry is probably something that you have to main. It's like Dancing Needle inside of Magical Musketeers. It's just a card that you gotta play. So you may not want to play Card Destruction. If you're playing Card Destruction, which is why it's here, you gotta make Abyss Dweller. If you read that your opponent's playing Tier and you open Card Destruction, it's very easy to make an Abyss Dweller and then Card Destruction them, and then they won't get any effect. However, it better pop off all of the cards in your hand, and it has to be well timed, and if it does pop off, it's going to be pretty decent, and you're going to get some pluses, but you just gotta hope. So, you know, Card Destruction, take it or leave it. Accession is the fusion quick play that can summon pretty much any fusion fiend monster, which it can open up the doors for a lot of different stuff. Obviously with Grapha, which is the archetype fusion, but you have a lot of different targets. Evil Hero Malicious Bane, Inferno Tierra can be summoned by the card as well. Cordius is interesting. I'm gonna go over this card potentially in the Infernoid deck, just because I feel like you may want to consider it, because you could turn some Decatrons into something else rather quickly. So we'll talk about that when we talk about it. Getting into really the rest of the deck, guys, you want to pop off with this to then drop Silva and loop them on their turn. You can have a potential, and this is why I'm explaining it this way, and this is why I'd rather do it in the video form. You can normal summon Tour Guide, special summon Sanguine, add Necomani King, and if you can get the fusion out onto the field, the moment they do something, you force discard this from your hand, their turn is over. That's really, really strong, but that's dice rolly. It's strange, but if it pops off, it's kind of like a more factor painish for that. The way the Drytron could do that to you, this deck can do the same thing. But again, a lot of stuff has to hit the graveyard, sent to your graveyard. It has to hit the graveyard. All these cards say that, so you gotta really, really hope. I would definitely highly recommend playing a card like Called by the Grave, or just something to handle the Dimension Shifter and some of the back rows and macro cosmos and stuff like that you're gonna have to deal with. Moving quickly through the extra deck though, Grapha, if you're basically changing anything to force discarding for you, and then if your opponent gets hit with a Silva, that's just nuts. So this deck, it's not going to be the best deck. Tier is just far clear in the head and shoulders above everybody else, but this deck is pretty good, and people are already doing well with it. At a local level, we'll see when events really pop off, YCSs and all that. But Hope Harbinger is another good spicy target. Giant Trainer, I like. It's a time card. It's modern Yu-Gi-Oh! You got to consider a card like this. But additionally, being able to just get to another monster is going to happen a lot. You're playing 32 monsters. I'm playing 32 monsters, 13 spells. So it's a high probability that'll happen, and that's a time card. Something you got to consider in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Baguska, you can do this against Fluanderies, and you can just do it against decks that have a lot of monsters. Turn them all to defense. Keep going up, link climbing, and then make link monsters that just punch over everything that they're doing anyway. Abyss Dweller, again, it's key in today's meta. Dugares is perfect for Dark World. Drawing cards, specialing stuff, getting to link climb up into a Skull Dread. This stuff just going to be stuff that you need to do, so you got to have a card like Dugares. You can play double Skull Dread. I hesitate to find a space somewhere in here because I just like all of these cards. Underworld Goddess for the cards you can't deal with. Access Code Talker, just because you gotta have something that can just clear boards when you're playing that random rogue deck. Most of the time it's rogue decks that this dominates again, and most of the time Appaloosa is just really, really strong. Since mine is gone, I feel like Appaloosa is just way more important than it used to be. Nightmare Unicorn, very, very good target as well when you're link climbing up. Nightmare Phoenix, because you got to fight through back row. Muckracker is a very, very interesting card that also will be in that Infernoid profile. And this card says you can target one fiend monster in your grave, except Muckracker from the underworld. Discard one card, and if you do, special summon that monster. So again, guys, that's a card that can create a little bit of a wheels situation where you start to plus because you're activating, you're discarding, you're specialing back, and you're getting a lot of bodies on the field very, very quickly, which can be really, really strong. And last but not least in the extras, IP Masquerena. These cards down here are just additional cards that you have to consider. I 100% believe you have to main a puppetry. It's just banishing stuff out of a graveyard where there's a graveyard deck that's very dominant right now. It's something you probably have to main deck. Again, the tour guide, the Sangin, the Necromonic King thing, that's cute. These guys are fiends that you can consider playing. Guys, it would take me all day to explain all that. But you want to look at the evil here. One is they have to all attack this guy in the battle phase. So if you made him in the battle phase with the quick play, that would get really, really nuts and your opponent would be in a bad spot. So, and Malicious Bane just being untouchable and hard to deal with and a really gigantic monster that they have to deal with. It's a good target as well. I would hesitate to play Zombie Vampire just because I don't want to mill tier. So yeah, Dingirsu is a really, really solid choice, but I just couldn't find the space quite. It's up to you. World Sea, additionally, these two are just really, really strong targets. You can play this if you wanted to go up on the number of Ceruleas. I would highly recommend playing these because you would have to then put the Cerule back over there and hand it back to them and start just ripping cards out of their hand and just getting absolutely nutty. If I were to play it in real life, and we will have a budget version as well as a meta version coming, but I wanted to cover it this way. I feel like Drag Down is such a good card. Being able to look at somebody's hand is really, really key in today's meta, and there's not that many cards. They took away a pointer. They took a pointer down to one. It's good to see these cards, guys. So Drag Down, it may be a card you have to consider. Silent Graveyard can be really good if you open that card destruction and do all that stuff. Silent Graveyard is a consideration you have to have. And the floodgates are the floodgates. Rivalry, because you know, Fiend Kaijus, that's not a thing. And then, you know, Skill Drain, because Skill Drain is Skill Drain. Skill Drain is probably going to slip into your main. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let me know what version of the deck you're going to play. Is there a cool version that you like that's probably not going to blow up like that? Are you trying to take it to an event? Let us know down in the comments, and we'll see you next time. The captain is out. Arrivederci.